Welcome everyone to this Privacy Rules Privacy Espresso. My name is Alessandro Di Mattia. I'm a legal and executive officer here at Privacy Rules. And today we are going to discuss about how the pandemic basically influenced the public sector and this digitalization. And we are going to do that with Gleb Kapusto, the Chief Business Developer Officer at First Bridge, that is an R&D technology company that is working in many activities, but one of them is also related to e-governance and the public sector. So Gleb, thank you very much for being with us today. And let's start immediately in which are your experience on this. So do you have few challenges that you would like to name in relation to the public sector digitalization and you would like to share with us?
Yeah, first and foremost, Alessandro, thanks for having me today. It's definitely a pleasure. So I'll definitely come to your question. I want just to give you a quick introduction to what is like digitalization of public sector, what is e-governance, and how it's going, and how actually pandemic influenced it. So the year 2020 put government services and communication capabilities to the ultimate test, so having to meet the heightened expectation and increased demand. With the shift from working at the office to working remotely or even being unemployed, people still wanted to live normally and continue somehow with their plans, which of course included some intersections with the services from the government. Well, I'm pretty sure everyone faced that, how hard it was to actually do something with the public sector during that time. So this particular was even much harder for the countries where governments don't offer at all or have very little service through digital channels. So on the other hand, the pandemic has also been the biggest advocate and accelerator for digital transformation. Governments and local authorities started to have much stronger political will to develop online services and then raise citizens' awareness. Of course, this comes with a huge amount of questions and discussion points about how the data should be stored, who should have access to it, on what conditions this access is granted, and so on and so forth. The good news here is that all these questions were already answered using the new and tested technologies in countries that have been slowly but surely implementing electronic services. But these countries are pioneers, and they were hitting speed bumps while designing these services and had hiccups while promoting them among citizens. Basically, what we have right now is we're reaching the point that can be called like a worldwide evolution for the governmental level information and communication technologies. Governments around the world are recognizing the value of e-governance, and as you definitely already know, properly designed and implemented, e-gov can actually improve efficiency in delivery of all governmental services, simplify the compliance, regulations, and so on and so forth. What is even more important here is that eGov can help strengthen citizens' participation and trust in government, which is also crucial during this like hard time. So there is no surprise that policymakers are looking to adopt the government in countries around the world, ranging from the most developed countries to the least developed. Um, Everything that I've mentioned now is one of the key drivers responsible for the e-governance. Furthermore, the increased use of data, the growing business collaborations, and the government regulations and compliance mandates is also fueling the global market of the e-governance. All this brings to us to a question that is definitely like interesting for any business developer is how much this market is worth. So the global e-governance market is expected to grow from almost 21 billion in 2019 to 45 billion just in 70 years, which is 12% CAGR. So, as the COVID pandemic forces lockdowns, most countries and municipalities are pursuing digital government strategies, many with innovative initiatives. But vast number of people still do not have access to online services. According to the 2020 edition of United Nations e-government survey. So if we talk about the countries that are in avant-garde of eGov, those would include Denmark, Republic of Korea, and Estonia. And those would be followed with Finland, Australia, Sweden, UK, United States, and basically all countries that we are used to call like technically advanced. I actually have an interesting fact from one of Privacy Rules members from Australia. So Australian e-health system that was introduced probably 5 to 6 years back at the initial launch was like super unpopular between citizens. And still they have their own problems with that. Private sector tried to change that and create its own platforms, but they didn't succeed yet. So this gives us two important outcomes. One is even if the country is actively developing the eGov services like Australia is doing, it still requires a ton of work to actually make a good product, which is no surprise is the same in business. And two, it's amazing that some countries are already trying to implement the eGov and actually been trying to do it for years now, and even more. Other countries can take their examples and do it in their countries. So to sum up, in response to a health emergence that we're still having, governments have put in place new tools such as dedicated COVID-19 information portals, hackathons, e-services for supply of medicational goods, applications for tracking and tracing, and for learning. But all these tools that are so popular in the recent years, from 2020 and 2021, they are just the tip of the iceberg because e-governance at its foundation is the full digitalization of the public sector, which means that the government should digitalize various registers, starting from the general one, which has all the basic information about the person, like name, sex, age, where the person was born, and so on, and finishing with an online tool that can get you a driver's license. So, to sum up my short monologue about the eGov, I'd like to tell you about a case study from my country, which I find truly amazing and fascinating. So, the law that was signed in the beginning of April, which was like 3 weeks ago, even less, in Ukraine, equaled the paperback passport and ID card to a digital passport. So, this is a part of a big initiative from the Ministry of Digital Transformation to provide citizens with paperless governmental services. So, in a nutshell, how it works, we have a smartphone application created by the government that has most of the personal documents in it. So, for example, in my case, I have my ID card, I have my passport, driver's license, taxpayer number, and the document for my car. So what this all means is that citizens doesn't need to carry all the paper documents, and all you need is just a smartphone to verify your identity. It even helps you to verify your identity, which is even more amazing, I think, for all the governmental services that you want to get online. So you don't need to do anything else. What this means for the government is that the first significant step to bring paperless services. It still will take some time for government to bring all the regulations in line with this new law, and it will definitely take years to develop all other government services. But why this case actually fascinates me is because I hope that countries will see this as the case study. They will watch, they will learn from our mistakes and create something similar in their own countries.
Thank you very much, Gleb. And we are already at the end of our time. So I just wanted you to if you can sum up the key benefits that you see for the countries in investing in e-government and digitalization in particular.
All right. So I would say that first and foremost, this is something that can be used in governmental PR campaigns. So because this stuff actually make lives of citizens and companies much easier. And this leads to even more interesting for government point, the government will earn more. So digitalized public services are more transparent and easier to use. So more people will eventually use it. And furthermore, which is like super important for less developed countries, the issue with the corruption, which is like everywhere still, will become much. It will be much harder to do that, and as services will migrate from offices to web browsers, from books, and they will go to protected data centers. So yeah, good luck with the corruption. And of course, it will cut operational costs for government because it will be cheaper to maintain it online rather than offline.
Perfect, Gleb. Thank you very much. We ran out of our time. I thank also our listeners for sending questions in the chat and interacting with us, and for joining us today. And I look forward to our next episode of the Privacy Espresso next Thursday. Thanks again, and bye, everyone.